Hi, I'm Jim.
And I'm Jeff.
Thanks for listening to the Stanching Tyranny Hour. Pour yourself a cup of coffee and pull up a chair while we start the march toward liberty.
That doesn't make sense. How does one march while in a chair?
Good question. You can figure it out. You're the engineer.
Well, stay tuned and we'll let you know on 1450 AM WPG.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Happy Saturday. Glad you could be here on the Stanching Tyranny Hour.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear the news at the top of the hour there. The important thing.
Yeah.
Britney Spears.
And Elton John getting adopting a kid or something.
Nice.
You know, isn't that?
Rosie O'Donnell.
Yeah. That's important news. The news that affects us all.
Right.
Yeah. But welcome this happy Saturday. Looks like it's going to be a bright, sunny one.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah,
yesterday's the first one in a long time, so we'll take it.
Yeah. And a little bit about ourselves. We're Jim and Jeff Stanch. This is the Stanching Tyranny Hour. But our day job is at Runnymede Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electric, as well as Noggin House, where we do solar installations. And, you know, we talk a lot about the oncoming tyranny that is, heading straight for us, whether we want to admit it or not. And we need to start doing things. And one of the best things you can do for your home, for your family, for your budget is solar energy, because it's the only way, literally, that you can get control of your electrical costs.
Yeah, and we like to say, we want to help people prepare for what's coming.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to have to be forced to do this stuff once the things that are coming happen.
Yeah.
And we're talking the financial inflation,
energy costs are going to keep going up.
Skyrocketing. It's going to happen. It's got to happen. I mean, just look at the math, and it's obvious.
Yeah.
So solar energy is a great way to do that. It's real easy to get started with the SunPower lease program, and you can replace your electric bill with a fixed monthly payment. And the other thing that's really important on the consumption side is to figure out strategies to reduce how much energy you use in the home. And this isn't coming at you from a tree hugging standpoint. This is from a freedom standpoint and giving you the ability to be prepared for, again, what's going to happen.
I guarantee you, if your home is more than 10, 15 years old, there's things that you can do that will tighten your house up, make your energy consumption go down dramatically.
Yeah.
And the time to do it is now, while you have some control over it.
Some of these things that we're doing to reduce energy consumption in a home, 15 years ago, I just said, that's not a big deal.
Well, we looked at it in the early 90s.
Sure.
Now, put it in perspective, gasoline was very inexpensive in those
89
days.
cents a gallon.
Yeah, energy overall was inexpensive, and you, I remember, were particularly interested in this method that was relatively new at the time.
The whole idea of building science.
It was new, and we looked at it and we said, people just aren't going to do it because the cost versus the benefit wasn't there. Well, guess what? It's there now.
Yeah, and it's going to be there more so in the future. And we don't want to see people in a position where they're forced to cut back and get self-sufficient.
Yeah,
and that's ultimate. Look at the Euro crisis.
Yeah.
I mean, we just saw the headline.
Right. Now keep in mind, the headlines that were likely seen on the network news this week was that some European guy said that the worst is over.
The worst is over.
Well, tell that to the Greek people.
Yeah, it's not over.
It's not over.
Not over. There's some stuff going on that, we have Germany going to have their elections.
Yep.
We're going to see I suspect we're going to see a rise in nationalism.
Russia's already moving that way.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. It's bound to happen.
Yep.
And that's what happens when you have crises like this.
Yeah.
But getting back to the Greeks, the story of
the national forests are getting raided. Raided
for what?
For wood.
Yeah.
Because the Greek people need a way to heat their homes,
right.
and they just don't have it. They don't have the money to buy fuel oil and propane and natural gas, so they're heading into the national forests and cutting the trees down.
Yeah, so that's a great example. And don't think that it couldn't happen here. It could happen here, and it will happen here eventually.
Yeah.
So ultimately, they won't be able to figure out how to stop it. So becoming self-sufficient is really important. Solar's a great way to do it. The energy is free from the sky. And, you know, as long as the sun is shining, obviously, you have electric. And maybe in a worst-case scenario, it demands that you manage your lifestyle a little bit. But at that point, everybody's managing their lifestyle.
Right. So, solar energy is a great way to go. And, again, the energy consumption using the Home Performance with Energy Star program, our brother Chris would be able to identify how much energy you can save, which is quite a bit. So if that's something that you'd like to look into, give us a call at our office, 888-669-7337. We'll be glad to help. Ordinarily, I would tell you to call right now, but our office is actually not open. Kevin, our service manager, who would usually be there, he's got married tonight.
Yeah, congratulations, Kevin.
Yeah, so he is not there, and we're filling in for Kevin, but we're here, as you can hear. And so, therefore, we won't be answering the phones there. It's all very complicated.
Yeah, at least for an hour. Anyway.
Yeah. But give us a call, 888-669-7337. So we want to talk today about more guns and more money.
More guns and more money, but not for you people.
Right. Well, it's less guns for you.
Yeah.
More money for the politicians.
Which means less money for you.
Right.
Yeah. That's how it really works.
So let's if we can recap last week.
Yeah. In the minute, on the gun, from the gun standpoint. So, you know, it's still going on, the great gun control debate, and President Obama came out with his, 23?
Yeah, 23 executive orders, which all, on the surface sound quite reasonable, and, isn't that,
you just said on the the news, if we can save just one life.
Yeah, never mind all the lives that he's taken of the kids he's bombing
droning
over there
poor
Afghanistanians
or whatever you would call them, who are completely innocent of doing anything against any of us.
Right.
They're kids, for crying out loud.
But that's okay.
Yeah, collateral damage.
Right. Yeah. Well, they're not American, so I guess they're not valuable.
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that how it works?
That's how it works.
All right.
So, he had his 23 executive orders, which the whole executive order issue is a whole nother discussion that I would love to delve into someday, but not this morning.
Yeah.
The New York law.
So what did they do? Seven rounds?
Seven rounds in a magazine or a clip, And then they realized, oops. Yeah, they forgot about the police.
Yeah, the
police have typically 15 rounds in their 9mm clips, and so obviously that leaves them 8 rounds short to get bad guys.
Right. Yeah, because it's just constantly shooting at the bad guys.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's right?
Yeah.
Okay. So they need lots of bullets.
Lots of bullets in their clips.
Right.
So, but apparently the law didn't set aside that, that provision. So, how does that
How
work?
are they going to keep us safe from the bad guys?
Well, they're taking their guns away. They're only giving them 7 shots.
The bad guys only have 7 shots?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure when they go to rob a bank, the first thing they do is they pop the magazine out and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. Hold on.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Right.
And they pop that out.
That's what,
all right, now I'm good.
So somebody really smart got paid a lot of money to figure out that the bad guy ain't really all that good at shooting, and that if you give him just 7 bullets, chances are he's going to miss.
Is that how they figured it out?
The contract.
They probably paid him like
the contract was a multi-million-dollar contract
right.
to do the math and the interpolations and the extrapolations and the machinations to figure that out, and they came up with a computer algorithm that used data from the database of people who were screwy in their heads, and they figured out that 7. Okay. 7 is the number.
I feel safer already.
Yeah, so don't you worry.
That's great.
Yeah, so So then we have the guy, I think he was in Illinois. He wants to put GPS transmitters in the gun.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, that'll
because, you know,
everything.
guns, they could get lost.
Well, they could get up and walk and go down the street.
Yeah, and they need a tom-tom to help them
to know where they're at.
Maybe that's not what he had.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Maybe I'm confused on that. All right, well, we'll skip that then. And then the NRA ad. Did you hear? I know you didn't see the NRA ad because we don't have television. We just have internet.
We don't have television.
Yeah, we don't participate in that.
No.
But I did hear about it. So the NRA ad apparently said something about Barack Obama having children that are protected by guns. Something to that effect. Maybe I don't have it 100% right.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, well, that is true, but apparently some people think that that's not very nice to point that out.
Like who?
Like, people like, Chris Christie.
So so he said something about?
Yeah, he said that wasn't nice. They shouldn't ought have done that.
Well, but wait, it's true, right? The Obama's kids, they get probably half a dozen to a dozen Secret Service people that are very well armed,
right?
And they watch their every move.
That's true.
Well, our kids, they're just, they would take away our gun rights
as long as Chris Christie's kids are safe and Barack Obama's kids are safe. But don't say anything about it.
So we can't say that it's true.
Yeah.
That while they take away our gun rights, that their kids get all this protection at our expense, of course.
Well, of course, they're not paying for it out of their own pocket. Don't be ridiculous.
Because us common people, we're not worthy of protection.
Listen, shut up and pay your taxes. All right.
Yeah, like Lindsey Graham
said. Pay your taxes.
Yeah, shut
up,
sit
down, and pay your taxes.
Right.
Well, thank you, Lindsey Graham. I forgot the sit down part.
Yeah.
At least he wants us to be comfortable while we shut up.
Yeah.
Now let's take a phone call. We have Carl. Good morning, Carl.
Morning, Carl.
Good morning, Jim and Jeff.
How are you?
I think our governor should stop kissing up to our Muslim president. It doesn't seem to work.
Yeah, he's groveling at the trough.
Well,
I think.
it seems to me like he's making the bed for 2016 and appealing to the moderate.
Well, apparently Chris Christie thinks it's the way to the heart of the American people is for Republicans to become more Democrat. Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Well, I thought our governor was a Democrat.
Sure
seems like it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
So that's exactly what happened, and he's had his little fit about the hurricane relief money or the superstorm relief.
Sandy relief. That didn't work so well either.
Yeah, we got a little clip from Rand Paul we'll play in a minute. So he mentioned that.
The president was going to get all the red tape cut and all that stuff, and when he was over there in Brigantine, and didn't happen.
They just
well, that was wait a minute. That was before he got reelected. That's
right. Yeah. Once you're elected, then
do whatever you want.
All bets are off.
Right.
They'll change the color of the tape. They'll make it more of a mauve.
Yeah.
That'll
be nice.
I think he's cutting cutting TRICARE to the military retirees.
Oh, is that right?
Boy.
Yeah.
See, now there's a good idea. Sure.
Well, he got reelected. That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure that money will be well spent on bombing kids in Afghanistan.
Right.
So,
Right.
obviously, as
you gotta pay for
the
drone strike somehow.
Yeah, Carl, come on. Those people want to kill us, them little kids over there.
They already, they already stuck it to the retirees on that.
Oh, yeah.
There's more coming. Don't you worry. Yeah. Don't you worry, Carl. More coming.
I'm not worried. Yeah. I'm not worried. I got a couple guns. Don't tell anybody. Nobody's listening, right?
No, nobody's listening. Jeff and I are on
Nobody will know.
Right. Secret safe here, except maybe Scott here running the board, but we can take care of him after the show.
Yeah, there's two of us.
Okay. Well, that's probably what you would have to do if somebody broke in your house and you used the gun because you'd be in big trouble in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Did you retreat? Did you retreat into the closet and hide?
Right. Hide and call 911 and wait for the police.
Right. Did you hide?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So the message there, Carl, is make sure your gun is loaded And make sure it's a good, nice caliber that does a lot of damage, because you don't want the bad guy to be able to survive and say that you didn't retreat.
Yeah, exactly.
And sue you.
Right. So make it count.
Right.
Right, exactly. Right, you're right. Right, you got to be a better shot.
Yeah.
Be better shot than our police officers sometimes are. Like Fort Hood, that guy's in a wheelchair, and I think his beard's got to grow down to his ankles before they have the trial. I think that's what they're waiting for.
Yeah, they had that whole beard thing, which is
right. They replaced the judge. The judge now said he can have his beard, but I haven't heard anything, so I guess it's got to grow really long before they have the trial.
I just hope that it's groomed.
Yeah, me too. Nothing's worse than scraggly beard.
Right.
Now, what I was going to ask you about, they want to build windmills 2.8 miles off Atlantic City.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how that can why not work out financially, except I think they say our electric rates will go down because of that, and I just can't believe that.
Carl, I promise you, our electric rates will not go down.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure you're right.
You know, it's the typical government politics speak. Maybe they won't go up as much as they would have, but they'll still go up.
Yeah.
You know, sure.
Right. Yeah, so I haven't heard too much lately about the wind farm. Is that still on track? Are they still wanting to do that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think the government extended the grant monies or whatever, and in the paper they've already decided how they're going to run the cables up and down the coast in the ocean to take the electric to these different to the different grids. Let me put it that way.
Right.
Oh, it will be good for fishing anyway.
It gives us some fish structure out there. Of course, they'll probably have them guarded because they won't want the Taliban.
Listen to this. They're only going to build them in the winter because they don't want to disturb the whales, and they have to have 2 whale watchers while this is going on, watching on for whales.
That's a good paying job.
Stop working.
I bet you that whale watcher gets a good $100,000 easy, Carl.
That's 6 figures right there. Sure. Yeah. All right, Carl, we better let you go. We got another call.
Good talking to you.
All right,
have a good weekend.
Carl. Take care. Let's go to Al in Atlantic City. Good morning, Al.
Morning, Al.
Good morning. This gun situation is the approach, or perpetrated on the people, just like the tax the millionaires. It's just it's a phrase that they use. It's a deceptive phrase that they use, and it doesn't tell the truth.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Tax the rich meant that you're going to put a tax on the middle class because the rich isn't going to pay the tax; they're going to just pass it on.
Right.
And this gun situation is just a means of seeing how far he can go to be able to castrate, so to speak, the Second Amendment.
Yep.
If he figures he can get away with minimizing or diminishing the Second Amendment, then he can work on the rest of them.
Yeah, you're right, Al.
And I think the third one that he would be working on, or the next one that he would be working on, is getting the third term in as president.
Oh, that would be nice.
That could happen. And Al is exactly right. Thanks for calling, Al.
Yeah.
Al is exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
That is called the Hegelian dialectic. Yeah. We've talked about it before.
Right.
Look it up.
Mm-hmm.
But really, anytime a politician is speaking, you really need to look at the words and parse them.
The Second Amendment is a great example.
Yeah.
The Second Amendment states that the right to bear arms and a well-regulated militia. It says that the militia should be well-regulated.
Right.
Well, okay, so that's what they always hang their hats on, right?
They say, well-regulated. That means
you got to control
people
the guns
with all kinds of regulations.
You let the people
following.
And don't let them have certain guns.
Right,
and whatnot.
only the regulated
well-regulated. Well, sure, okay, that sounds good, but it's not true. It's a lie. I mean, they're lying. They're manipulating the language to make it suit their goal.
And that's what they do.
Yeah, and the fact is that back in colonial days, you were fined if you didn't own guns.
Yeah. Let's let that sink in. You were fined if you didn't own guns.
Yeah, in Virginia, you had to bring your gun. You had to bring your gun to church.
Right.
And if you didn't bring your gun to church, you had to pay a 3 shilling fine.
3 shillings. Huh?
3 shillings.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like half of a 6pence or something.
And a quarter crown.
Yeah.
We don't know these rates,
Who knows?
but it sounded
Somebody
pretty
knows.
neat.
They can let us know. But and these laws existed in Virginia, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Maryland. Matter of fact, all of those states had a requirement that if you were traveling through their state,
No, don't say it.
you better have a gun.
Now,
And if you don't,
now it's the complete opposite.
if you don't, you're going to pay a 5 shilling fine.
Now it's a complete opposite. Remember the case of the guy, and I think he lived in like Mount Laurel or something, and he was moving back in with his mom. He came from Colorado or some darn place.
Right.
And he got pulled over, and they found a gun, and you know, it was his gun.
I think he actually went in jail, right?
For a period of time. Now I
sure.
think he overcame the whole thing,
but he still had to go through it.
Yeah, ridiculous. So it's the complete opposite. See, we live in an opposite world.
Opposite world. Yeah.
That's not what our founding fathers intended. We have another call, Andrea in Summers Point. Good morning, Andrea.
Good morning, Jim and Jeff, Stanch brothers.
Good morning.
I don't really like to define myself by, Obama's standards, but no, I'm an ultra-liberal progressive. Okay?
All right.
And so what I'm having a problem with is Governor Cuomo. I don't think he went far enough. Only 7 bullets. So I've got a 10-round clip, and I got to take out 3.
Right. And if you're a bad guy, you're going to do that, right? Because you don't want to break the law.
Well, see, I don't think I don't think they went far enough. I think we need Obama and Crazy Uncle Joe's idea to enact this law. How about the Barney Fife from Mayberry? Right, you give the police officer 1 bullet, but he has to keep it in his breast pocket.
Right.
That's a good idea.
Does that scare the heck out of you?
Yeah. And just shake a lot when you hold your gun.
Yeah, like he did.
Because I'd like, my hand would shake, with the thing hanging down here.
Right.
All right, Barney, where's your bullet?
Right.
So that's what our president and Crazy Uncle Joe.
Yeah.
But lastly, a lot of people don't understand. At the end of that right that was given to us, anybody's forgetting this. It's a shall not to be infringed upon.
Yes. Right.
So let's go back to Barney Fife. Am I wrong here? Don't you think that sounds great? Remember that horrible bank robbery when the guys had all that armor out in California?
Yeah, I remember that.
All these, and the cops were like out-bulleted.
Right.
So now all of us, I guess we all, look, I have one of our friends that calls into talk radio. I love this sign he has in front of his house. This house is protected by Smith & Wesson 3 days a week. You guess. Guess which day?
Guess which day, yeah.
All right, so we're going back. Okay, Barney, all right, guys, it's great to listen to your show.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
the best of us miracle. I'm glad you let a woman call through.
No problem.
All right, guys, take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, so Andrew's
Crazy Joe.
Joe. We have a quote from Crazy Joe from just this week when he met with the NRA. He said, because they were protesting the fact that, we got plenty of laws. They were saying, we got plenty of laws. Why don't we just enforce the laws we have? He says, so Biden says, well, we need more gun laws because we don't have time to enforce the ones we have. They're just so busy.
That's perfect.
They're just so busy.
That's logical.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Joe, he's Crazy Joe Biden is exactly right.
Yeah, and he also said, Joe Biden this week, at probably the same meeting, he said that, people who are dangerous or unstable shouldn't be able to get guns.
Yeah.
That's what Joe said. So I'm going to play just a quick sound clip from...
Yeah. The people will remember this. Just probably about 10 seconds or so.
About 10 seconds if you just hit play.
Chuck Graham, state senator's here. Chuck, stand up, Chuck. Let him see you. Oh, God love you. What am I talking about? I tell you what, you're making everybody else stand up, though, pal. Thank you very, very much.
Yeah, so if anybody doesn't remember, Chuck Graham, he's in a wheelchair.
Right.
So that's the absurd part.
So I have a question for Joe. Okay, so maybe he's not dangerous. Unstable? I'm not so sure about Joe.
Yeah.
But is he a bonehead?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So where does the bonehead factor fall in?
Well,
would Joe be able to get a gun?
I
or no?
doubt it. I doubt it. If you just listen to clips of famous Joe Biden quotes over the years, I don't see how he could even get a gun permit.
You think that comes under the unstable part?
I would think.
Yeah.
I would think. Because surely the politicians who would want to buy guns would have to go through a mental evaluation, right?
They wouldn't expect to not have to obey the laws that you and I have to obey.
I'm sure they do, and they would comply with every single statute and law that
they're Americans just like you and me, aren't
just
they?
like us. Yeah, they're the people's people.
Sure.
Yeah, that is wonderful. You know, a big gun lover was Andrew Jackson. We talked a lot about him last week.
Yeah. He was great. So this will kind of transition us into the money part of our discussion.
People might not know this, but he was referred to as Old Hickory. Mm-hmm. And the reason they called him Old Hickory was because of his cane. Yeah. He had a cane, and it was made out of hickory, and it was old. And the nickname kind of stuck. Yeah. But anyway, apparently Andrew Jackson, one of his favorite hobbies, and apparently he could do this back then, one of his favorite hobbies was to duel.
Dueling, yeah.
Now, when you dueled, what you did was you got your gun, right, and you got the guy that you were dueling against, and you would either agree or flip a coin or whatever, decide who's going to shoot first, and you would take your 20 paces or whatever turn, the first guy would shoot, and then the next guy would shoot.
But not Andrew Jackson.
No,
he would volunteer to take the first shot, let the other guy shoot, take the first shot.
Yeah. Andrew Jackson was ornery, wasn't he?
He was ornery. Rumor has it, it varies, the tale, the number of duels that he participated in, but we know that it had to be at least 13.
Okay.
And it could have been as many as 100.
Yeah. Didn't you read something like he loved to duel so much that when he wasn't dueling, he was dueling?
Yeah, well, he loved dueling so much. As a matter of fact, he had, I think it was for the last 19 years of his life, he had a bullet in him.
Yeah.
He had gotten hit. And, you know, the story goes that he just, shook it off.
Yeah.
But the bullet stayed. Right. Because time spent removing bullets meant that there was less time spent dueling.
Yeah.
And, of course, he loved dueling.
So unless you like to duel, you better not say nothing cross to Andrew Jackson.
Right. And then there's the famous story of the assassination attempt.
Right.
You know, that guy, Richard Lawrence.
Yeah. He had two guns.
He had two guns, both misfired.
Right.
Right. And then what did Andrew Jackson do?
Beat him with his old hickory.
He chased him down with Old Hickory and beat the guy almost to death. His aides had to pull him off of the guy.
Right.
So.
Now that's the kind of president we need. A president with some cojones.
Yeah.
You know, Secret Service, nothing. He just beat him with his cane.
Right.
Look at all the money we saved. And by the way, Andrew Jackson was the only U.S. president to retire the debt of the United States.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking deficit, right? A lot of people like to pony up Bill Clinton and say, he had a surplus, blah, blah.
Nah, baloney. Come on.
He retired the debt.
Right.
Which means America owned zero to nobody.
Free. Now, all Bill Clinton did was they had a budget, and it turned out that the income was more than the budget. So they had a budget surplus. So they didn't spend as much as they thought they were going to spend. Put it that way.
Right. Yeah.
Well, big deal. We still were in debt.
Yep.
We're still in debt.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. Again, they play games.
Oh, they play the words. And the GOP debt ceiling, that's another example, which we'll get into. But I wanted to mention about the after Andrew Jackson, he abolished the bank, right, in the 30s, early 30s, 1830s.
Quote on his deathbed, his biggest accomplishment was that he killed the banks.
Yeah, so for a good long while, we had no central bank. It was all constitutional money. And the next issue came up when the Civil War came about. And so there you are. You got the Civil War brewing. And one of the early things Lincoln did was went to New York to talk to the bankers about getting a loan so he could fund the war, pay for supplies and pay the soldiers and whatnot.
Yeah, war's expensive.
Yeah, so they wanted to charge 24 to 26% interest on the loan that they offered, and Lincoln told them.
Now, these are the European banks,
the
right?
European banks, which had headquarters, or not headquarters, but branches in New York, of course.
Right.
And Lincoln told them basically, thanks but no thanks. And he decided to make their own money, print their own money. The government
became known as the greenback, right?
The greenback. And the reason it was called the greenback was the back of it was green. Makes sense, right?
That makes sense, sure.
Yeah, so $450 million was printed by Lincoln to pay the soldiers and the...
Now, that was completely constitutional, right?
It was,
I mean, it says in the Constitution that Congress shall coin money, or in this case, I guess, print it. Same thing, really, right?
Well, I don't know if it's the same thing, but it was $450 million was put out into circulation and stopped there. The only way he could have gotten more was to petition Congress to get more. Now, the thing that you got to know about this is this $450 million was interest free, debt free. In other words, the way we do it now is we borrow the money from the central bank.
And
print
they
it.
do the
print it, and then we got to pay them interest on money that they made out of thin air.
Which is exactly what Lincoln did.
Only
except the
government did it directly.
Right. Yeah. There was no bank above him
to
which they had to pay interest.
Yeah.
So how did they get buy-in from the people? I mean, I don't know what they would have been using in those days for money, but obviously they had to put this money into circulation and get everybody to agree that it had value and should be used in commerce.
And I'm not 100% sure. My guess is that it was backed by a hard asset because they actually had it then.
Right.
But that lasted until about 1863, and unfortunately at that point the banks wrangled their way back in.
So
this was at the peak.
This clever monkey business with that, wasn't there?
I mean, this was at the peak of the Civil War.
Yeah, so we're taught in school that the Civil War was about slavery, right?
Right.
Isn't that what it was all about?
Yeah, and the breakup of the Union and that sort of thing. South wanted to secede. And,
but it was over slavery.
Yeah,
right?
when really it was about more about the money.
It was about money.
So one thing that we didn't learn in school is that let's see, England had their troops amassed along the Canadian border, and was it Spain or France? France had their troops down in Mexico. And we were on the verge of giving Texas and Louisiana back to Spain.
Yeah.
That was very close to happening.
Yeah, and the whole issue to begin with, from what I understand, was not slavery. It was the fact that the southern states had to pay so much in taxes that the southern states were doing the production. And
right.
You know, we were still an agrarian
yeah.
economy, right? So we had to grow stuff to pay our bills.
Yeah, so the South grew the stuff, and the North consumed
spent the money.
Yeah,
yeah, and then so the South was doing all this work, having to pay all these taxes, which were imposed by the North,
right,
on exports and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And basically, really shutting them, pigeonholing
getting control over them.
In the from the standpoint of the
system.
business markets that they could participate in. And that made them mad, sure. You're doing all this work and you can't profit.
Yeah, they did the tariffs and all that, yep.
Yeah, and that's what really started the Civil War and the desire for secession.
Right. But the bankers did not like the fact that Lincoln did this whole greenback thing.
No.
They did not like it one bit.
Well, you got to wonder if the whole idea of the greenbacks kind of prompted the Civil War to begin with.
Yeah, that's what I wonder.
Because that happened pretty early on, right?
In 1861, I think.
Yeah,
62 maybe.
So it would have been important to try and drive up dissension between the two factions.
Right.
The banks, what do they care? They're going to loan money to both sides, right?
We got to remember that banks,
ultimately,
they benefit either way.
That's the rule of banking that we just got to remember. When we're talking central banks, they're going to fund both sides so that they can't lose.
Right.
And it looks like they did it in this case.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, they most certainly did. And in fact, they were able to pass the National Bank Act in 1863 and essentially set up a similar system to what we have now.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with that, though, is it puts the government in a catch-22 because now the government is funded by debt, right? The debt is the currency. So what happens when the government wants to pay off its debt? There's less currency.
And take on more debt.
Well, no. If the government says no, we're tired of having this debt, paying interest. We don't want any more debt.
Yeah.
But what happens is they pay off the debt. The currency comes off the table. So what happens when there's less currency?
There's less currency
in
circulation. There's a depression.
Right. And the banks know this.
And prices go up.
Well, yeah, they can, yeah. Mm-hmm. But you get that depression/inflation, which is the worst.
Right, an inflationary depression.
Yeah, yeah. So the banks getting that control was key to really Lincoln, quote unquote, winning the war. He did it anyway to preserve the Union.
Right. That became his goal.
Yeah, and you have to wonder how it could have been different if he didn't go to the banks, because it was real close to being a worldwide problem.
Oh, yeah, it would have been a world war.
Yeah, Russia told the French and the English that said, listen, basically, if you guys attack the U.S., we're going to consider that you declaring war against us.
Russia. Now, interestingly enough, Russia at the time did not have a central bank.
Right.
They had an asset-backed currency system, just like the greenbacks, matter of fact. And it begs the question, had it not been for Lincoln ultimately giving in and going to the central banks, would the Union have split?
Yeah, that's
it probably would have, because at that point, the banks got what they wanted.
Right.
The bankers got what they wanted, which was really they just wanted the debt. They wanted control of the money.
They wanted control of the money,
and
that's right.
they got it, so that allowed the Union to remain.
Right. Yep.
Very
that's what
interesting.
It looks like.
Let's go to Pat in Ventnor. Good morning, Pat.
Good morning, Pat. Thanks for listening.
Yes, good morning, Jeff and Jim.
Good morning.
Or should it be Jim and Jeff?
Either one we'll answer to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. You were talking about the Civil War, and I just wondered why, after the Civil War, did the North just decimate the South? I mean, they took those plantations, they burned them all down, they left everybody penniless. I mean, what they did to that part of the country was beyond reproach, and I never understood why they did that, because it didn't help anybody. No,
and you have to wonder how much the money powers had to do with that, because really that's what it's all about with the elite money power. It's all about domination and control. They want power more than anything. They want to control the resources. They want to control the people. It's all just a big old chess game.
And the South had a very, very strong economy. I mean, they had the resources to dominate industries on a worldwide basis.
Right.
And I don't think the bankers like that.
No,
they wanted to dominate the industries on a worldwide basis. That's their whole motive.
Yeah, there was also that term, the carpetbaggers. It showed them just going down there, just like looting the place, and it left a very, very bad taste, I think, in the Southerners. I mean, now it's changed. Now it's like it's 212, and we have like diversity all over the country.
Right.
But I lived in the 60s in Georgia.
Okay.
And I remember taking my children to the movies to see Gone with the Wind, and I had seen it years previous, of course. And I said to my children, we've got to go see Gone with the Wind. That was when it started coming out again. This was in the 60s, and I'll tell you something. I sat in that movie house, and when Scarlett O'Hara shot that fellow from the north there, that was... Yeah, the whole theater stood up and cheered.
Wow.
I've never seen anything like it. They cheered for like 10 minutes.
Oh, that is funny.
Really and truly, yeah, because he had shot, she had shot a northerner.
A northerner, very hanky.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and then when my children went to school, they pledged allegiance to the flag, but then the next thing they did was sing Dixie.
Oh, is that right?
That was in the 60s. Oh, yes.
Wow.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. But things have changed now.
Yeah, right.
Things have changed.
Right.
But there were bad feelings. I mean, there were very bad feelings to what, they had done to them.
Yeah.
And I guess there were a lot of people there that were like in the middle and hadn't done anything to anybody and yet were, left penniless and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I just thought I'd put that in. And also, you're talking about money now. Gold, I heard yesterday, whether I heard all of it, but they said that they are... I think it's Germany.
Yes.
I'm glad you mentioned that,
France and out of America.
Yeah, we're real glad you mentioned that, Pat.
Yeah,
that's
give us like
list.
7 years, Pat. We'll deliver that gold. We promise.
Yeah.
But we just need 7 years or so.
Yeah, just about 7 years. Yeah, because it's a lot of gold.
Sure. Yeah, we got to package it
time.
just so for you.
And another thing, solar power. That sounds very interesting. I have to look into that because. These gas heaters are awfully dirty. So, I'm thinking if I can get rid of all this dust or something. So I think I'll maybe call your office next week.
We'd be glad to help.
We'd be glad to help, yep.
Okay, guys. Have a nice day.
All right,
you too.
Thank you, Pat.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, the gold, the German gold. Yeah.
Yeah, I should say, let me just put our number out there for Pat to write down, 888-669-7337. And we'll be in the office all next week because Kevin's getting hitched, so he'll be on his honeymoon.
Right.
And so we'll be glad to talk to you. But yeah, the Germans are going to repatriate their gold, which basically means they're taking it all back and sticking it in their own bank.
So apparently, back at the end of the World War II, right? So we somehow got their gold.
We got a lot of gold, and
we made them agree that they would. Well, we forced them to store their gold with us.
Yeah, and the way it's done is through the monetary system, because of the backing of the dollars and to trade to make sure you had collateral and that sort of thing. But anyway, so the Germans came out and said, we're gonna ask you to go ahead and send our gold back, and they're actually giving the United States Federal Reserve 7 years. Which is really preposterous because it sounds like a lot of gold. It's tons and tons of gold.
300 tons, I think.
But a ton of gold isn't that big physically because gold is heavy, right? So you could fit a few tons in the back of a pickup truck. If the truck could move after you put it in there, but physically it would fit.
Right.
So that I'm sure they could fill up a container car on a cargo ship and get it over there right quick if they really wanted to.
Right.
But I think they're being nice to the Federal Reserve because my bet is that the gold isn't all exactly.
Oh yeah, I'm sure the Federal Reserve is like, we'll get that together for you.
Yeah.
Where are we gonna get the gold?
There's something down there. We can send them back, and then we'll tell them it'll take some time.
7 years.
7 years. Tell them it's gonna take some time.
Yeah, 7 years.
Yeah. Oh, okay. We'll see what happens. But that's not good.
No. What I'm interested in seeing is what happens with the gold price.
Right.
Now, there'll be a reaction to this, but I would think that the central banks want to keep that down.
Oh,
so that they can buy it.
Right.
So that they can give it to Germany. then they just let the price rise.
Well, that's what's happening, right?
The central bank
banks
wants to own gold now.
That's what's happening. Despite Ben Bernanke sitting in these congressional hearings saying, gold, that's just a barbarous rock, and you know, it's a nice thing to look at, but it's not really, you know, we don't really care about gold. It's not money.
Hey.
Guess what? It is, because the central banks all over the world are buying gold.
Yeah.
And listen, don't think that's not important, because that means they're getting ready for something.
Yeah. We will ultimately be on some sort of world currency that's backed by gold.
Yeah.
And that will only happen after the central banks own all the gold.
Right.
So
they won't let it happen before then.
Right.
They will not let it happen before then. They can't. They can't. Right?
Yeah.
They want to make sure that all their ducks are in a row before they allow the economy to collapse.
Right. They got to be in control. Let's go to Tony in Pleasantville.
Hey.
Good morning, Tony.
Morning, Tony.
How you doing, gentlemen?
Oh, we're doing good.
Oh, isn't it? I'm telling you, isn't it wonderful to be in the Obama States of America?
Yeah. The land of the free.
But listen, you know, how's that law work up in New York? I want to know, because a friend of mine lives up in New York. He's a gun owner, and if a criminal breaks into his house and the criminal only has 7 shots in his clip, but he's got 8. Does he get arrested with the criminal too? I mean, how's that?
Probably.
Fire off a shot before the police get there to show that he's only got 7 in the clip.
If your friend has 8 shots in the clip, he's going to have to do time, just like that bad guy. Because you know that bad guy, he stopped at the front door and he counted his bullets, made sure that he wasn't breaking the law.
Is that how that works?
I think your friend is being wholly irresponsible, Tony, for even...
You think I should report him to the FBI?
I think he should be on the terrorist list.
I'm a big believer in see something, say something.
Well, in this case, we heard
I think as soon as I get done talking to you guys, I'm going to call the local FBI office and report him.
Well,
you know,
thank you, Tony, for helping to keep us safe.
But,
yeah, I feel much more secure now, Tony, because you're going to make that call.
Now I feel safe and secure knowing that when I go, if I ever have to go up to the state of New York, I can only get shot 7 times instead of 10.
Yeah. You know, Tony,
that makes me feel safe and secure.
Yeah. You know, there's a great documentary. You can look it up on YouTube. Innocence Betrayed. You want to see a great documentary about gun control and what happens under a situation of gun control over history. That is a great...
What is it again?
Innocence Betrayed.
Innocence Betrayed.
Innocence Betrayed.
Well, I get a kick out of these politicians. They all talk about getting illegal guns off the street, but they come after the legal gun owner.
Right. Isn't that crazy?
What's their comprehension when it comes to that?
I saw a great interview on CNN. I forget the guy's name. It was a senator or congressman, and the host asked him, well, you know, Congressman, you know, these new gun laws, would they have really done anything to stop the Connecticut, the Sandy Hook issue? And he said, well, no, not really. He goes, yeah, the real issue is the handguns, he says. Yeah. So there you go, Tony. They're coming for the handguns.
Yeah,
the real issue is these guns that were, you know, that were used in these hideous acts. These guns were all legal and legally bought. Right. It's just a shame that a crackpot got a hold of them.
Exactly.
Yeah, and he didn't buy them; he stole them.
Right.
And people say, well, she should have had him locked up. Well, how do you know she didn't have him locked up? He's a grown man.
I understand, though, that when they passed that law up in New York State, though, every criminal, before they go out and mug somebody or rob a liquor store or something, they're going to make sure they only got 7 shots in the clip before they leave the house.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And New York will end up
citizens.
And New York will end up a very safe city, just like Chicago.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah.
You'll be able to walk down the street at 3 a.m. with $20 bills glued to you.
Just hanging out. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
By the way, I meant to tell you about that government program before I leave. Remember, they were studying the sex life of the fruit fly?
Yeah.
I enrolled in that program, but I got to start out at the bottom. I can't start out at the top. I got a job as a technician, but I'm not the guy putting the condom on the fruit fly. I'm the guy that has to take it off of him after he's done using it.
Wear gloves, Tony.
I got a big they issue a big pair of those yellow latex gloves. You have to wear them.
Yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good
Watch
thing.
out for them
STDs,
you know.
Yeah.
I hope you get promoted, Tony, because that's got to be a tough job.
I'll work my way up.
All right.
That's good to hear.
All right, guys. Keep up the good work.
Tony.
All right. Thanks,
have a good one.
You too.
But yeah, so these gun laws, right? They are tied directly to monetary laws.
Yeah.
The debt ceiling. Yeah. These are all related.
Well, let me. I mentioned the Rand Paul
interview.
Yeah, let me play that because you're right. It's tied to money. So let's go over here, Scott, and it's queued up, and we're going to play about a minute of that.
You have some Republicans backing down, like Christie backing down and criticizing the NRA, and I think that doesn't do us any good. So I think Republicans do need to stand more firmly on this issue.
Why do you think he's doing that? Why do you think Chris Christie is doing that?
You know, I think he may be solidifying his support with Democrats in New Jersey and maybe liberal Republicans, but if he wishes to do something nationally, I think criticizing the Second Amendment movement and, you know, really I think the over-the-top, give me my money kind of stuff, I want all $60 billion now or I'm going to throw a tantrum, I don't think that's going to play well in the Republican primary because we realize that, you know, the whole idea is that even for disaster funds, most Republicans think it should be paid for, that you should take the money from somewhere else in the budget and not just print up new money or borrow it, even for a disaster. So, I don't know. I think people need to think through what their positions on these things are.
Well, finally, Senator.
Okay, that was Rand Paul talking about...
yeah, he's been throwing down lately.
Yeah,
I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear it. Somebody needs to.
We were equal opportunity offenders, and we call out conservatism that's fake, and this is a good example.
Yeah. Another great example is if you read the Wall Street Journal at all over this weekend, headline news is GOP moves to extend debt ceiling.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so they want to have a little 3-month reprieve on the whole debt ceiling thing. But then they're really going to
get busy. Sure.
Yeah.
And tell me more about this deal that they came up with. Did they work hard in their offices?
Oh yeah,
burn the midnight oil on that.
Well, at a resort.
Oh.
Yeah, they were at a resort somewhere. I think it was in Virginia or somewhere, which isn't far from Washington, D.C., last I checked.
No.
So they could have just stayed in their offices that we pay for.
They could probably have borrowed a conference room or something.
I would think. But no, they went to a resort. And
these are the conservatives, right? The fiscal conservative guys?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. And So they want to have this law that will extend the debt ceiling, and what they're going to do is they want to make sure that before there's any long-term debt limit increase, a budget should be passed that cuts spending.
Yeah, they're right. We haven't had a budget since 2009, I think, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. So it's all about the budget, isn't it?
Yeah, we need a budget.
Yeah,
that's what we
need a budget. Because if we had a budget, we wouldn't be in the mess that we're in today.
Right, well, we could be like Bill Clinton and have a budget surplus by the end of our term.
And, we've heard all this from these conservatives all over the years about the budget and how important the budget is, and we're not operating with a budget let's budget.
Right.
You know what the fact is about the budget? It's not mandatory.
No.
It's not required.
No. As a matter of fact, take this a step further. They backtracked a little bit and said, well, all right, so it's not a budget. It's a budget blueprint. What is that? What's a budget blueprint now? So that's like a pre-budget, a draft of a budget, like on the back of a napkin?
Well, if they don't have a budget blueprint, which is a plan to have a budget, which is a plan, so it's a plan for the plan?
Well, yeah, they could write it on the back of the napkins from the resort, which I bet are really nice
They're
napkins.
Probably Egyptian cotton.
Oh, yeah, 1,000 thread count.
Because really, you don't want the politicians' hands to get chafed by paper napkins.
Right. Well, maybe they had lanolin enriched napkins.
And, probably, I would think, because, they're doing the people's business.
Right.
They're doing the people's business
at the resort.
Yeah.
You know what I think?
What?
If they don't do their jobs, they should not get paid.
I'm glad you said that, because that is part of this law that they want to play. Under this bill, the senators' salaries will be withheld until Senate passed the budget.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it'll be withheld until they pass the budget.
Correct.
So once they pass the budget,